I'm Zach Collins, professor of tuba and euphonium at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. In this session, what I plan to show you are some techniques that I have found to be helpful when preparing for auditions and performances. I have enlisted the help of one of my students to serve as a guinea pig for this exercise.
Hi, my name is Matthew Mantini. I'm a sophomore music education and composition major at IUP. I, as you're about to see, play euphonium, and I'm from Johnstown. I'm a graduate of Richland High School.
You'll notice that Matthew is sight reading. This is on purpose. I was hoping he would make some errors that we would then need to fix. So the goal of this video is to give you some techniques that you can use in your own playing and in that of your students to help you to feel comfortable on the stage in auditions and in performances. I've seen these techniques be successful in my own playing and in the playing of that of my students. The first thing that I would suggest doing when working on a piece of music is to break it down into its individual parts. And the first part that I would suggest focusing on is rhythm. Counting gets neglected far too much. Lack of comfort in the rhythm of a piece of music leads to musical anxiety that causes other problems. Settle the rhythm first. Have a system for counting.
1 and a 2 and 3 and 1, a 2. 1 and a 2 and 3 and 1, a 2.
Next, I encourage students to turn rhythm into a physical exercise. I like to have students conduct and count because that introduces meter into the rhythmic equation. It also makes it a coordination exercise, and I think there's a certain relationship to playing music and being coordinated. We are always juggling multiple things at the same time.
1 and a 2 and 3 and 1, a 2. 1 and a 2 and 3 and 1, a 2.
Next, I would bring this rhythm to the fingers.
1 and a 2 and 3 and 1, a 2. 1 and a 2 and 3 and 1, a 2.
The ear must also be developed by instrumentalists. Therefore, I always have my students sing. Brass players are capable of playing by feel, but how you feel changes from day to day and hour to hour. But a perfect fifth is a perfect fifth every day. Arnold Jacobs' great book, Song and Wind, talks extensively about the connection of the ear to wind instrument performance. I highly recommend it.
Mi, so, do, mi, re, ti, do, so, mi, do, ti, la, so, do, mi, re, re.
For brass players, buzzing is also a vital step that leads to pitch accuracy. Buzzing is singing. You're just moving your vocal cords from your throat to your lips. I could probably make an entire video about the benefits of buzzing, but for now, I'll just say brass players should buzz. We're going to jump back to rhythm to further fine-tune the rhythmic integrity of the performance. I have a couple metronome hacks for you that might make you feel more comfortable with rhythm. First up, I like to put the metronome on the upbeat. Oftentimes, we land the downbeat notes with the metronome when the metronome is also on the downbeat. But what happens in between the downbeats may not be fully correct. You hear this when a student is not dragging or rushing, but their performance just doesn't groove. try putting the metronome on the upbeat. It may make your head spin at first, but once you get the hang of it, it'll make a huge difference. Another method I like is to use a drum machine instead of a metronome. This is good because it also introduces meter, and sometimes it just makes the practice session a bit more fun. The easiest way I have found to generate a drum beat is to use GarageBand, but there are also several other free apps. Now we're going to talk about some exercises you can use once you have the most basic elements in place. The first one is simple. Set a timer. For this video, we are going to set a 2-minute timer. You'll see just how many repetitions you can get in with 2 minutes. By doing this, a student should constantly clean up a passage, but then will also reinforce clean performances by the end. Too often, students stop after the methods we used before. They diligently count, sing, buzz, use a metronome, and they practice until they get it right. But as one of my colleagues often says, you can't just practice until you get it right. You have to practice until you can't get it wrong. This is where repetition comes into play. The timer is the first of 3 ideas I will give you to incorporate into practicing after you have worked out the kinks. Here's one that my students probably cringe to hear: the penny game. This is not my idea. I first learned of it from the great tuba soloist Oystein Bodsvik. The idea is this: you put 10 pennies on a stand, you choose an attainable passage. Sometimes it's 4 bars, sometimes it's 2 bars, 1 bar, maybe it's just 2 notes that you have a difficult time achieving. Play the passage. If it is correct in all aspects, pitch, rhythm, articulation, dynamics, you move 1 penny to the other side of the stand. You do it again. If it's perfect, move another penny over. Again, perfect, another penny. Again, oh, you chipped a note. All pennies go back. The idea is not just to play a passage correctly 10 times, but to play it correctly 10 times in a row. This builds confidence. If you can play a passage 10 times in a row, you can surely play it that 11th time or that 12th time. Now, I've had students over the years come to me and say, I did the penny game, but the next day when I go to play, it's no longer perfect. This caused me to think of a spin on the game. Our brains learn from repetition, but they also learn from recall. Try starting with the penny game. Once you achieve 10 perfect repetitions, go work on something else for 10 or 15 minutes. But then, come back and play a mini 5-penny penny game. Do this several times until you play it perfectly each time you recall the passage. Well, I hope that you found something new, or maybe been reminded of a technique that you have known in the past and have neglected or forgotten. I know that in putting these materials together, that I've been reminded of some techniques that I need to incorporate back into my own practicing. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video.